Hi, I'm Lawrence, and this is my little studio here. I live on an island in the middle of Puget Sound, which is commuting distance to Seattle. And before the pandemic, I used to go in there every day and work as a programmer in this scary looking building here. I grew up in England, and I started taking violin lessons when I was quite young, but that didn't go very well because my teacher would send me home after each lesson with these pages of exercises to learn before the next lesson, and it just felt like more homework. And what kid needs more homework? So when I picked up guitar when I was 14, I decided I just wanted to explore the instrument on my own terms and kind of see what music I could get out of it. A couple of years later, I heard bluegrass banjo and I decided I wanted to learn that. But there was no one around that could even play this stuff, let alone teach it to me. So I learned from books, and like most people back then, putting the record on the turntable and slowing it down so that you could hear the notes. Bluegrass banjo has a lot of notes. And that kind of ear training really stuck with me, because I didn't get serious about reading music until quite recently, because I could just hear the notes, and if I could hear it, I could probably play it, and it was just faster. Plus you get to hear, the phrasing and dynamics and tone and the things that are hard to capture on paper. So in those early days, I played music with my brother. My brother played fiddle. He obviously survived the violin lessons better than I did. And we would go to local folk clubs and pubs, and this was my first experience in playing in front of an audience. Now, probably because I'm self-taught, I didn't learn in a straight line. I sort of jumped around. Most people probably learn the basics first, the fundamentals, and then they go on to progressively more difficult material, where I would just start with like the hardest thing I could think of and just kind of dive in. And of course I'd fail because it was way beyond my abilities, and then I'd try again, then I'd fail again. But I learned so much in the process that it felt like it was worth doing. And eventually I get it. When I was 24, I decided that playing music was really all I wanted to do, so I quit my job, I said goodbye to everyone, and I left for the US. And I started playing in a bluegrass band in West Virginia. And that was really the beginning of a 20-year career in music for me. But most of my professional career, I played in one of these, or maybe one of these. I played a few high-profile venues like the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, but most of the time I play in these fairly small dance clubs, and I play a lot of country, quite a bit of rock, swing, blues, top 40, you name it. It was really quite liberating because it was like anything with a dance beat was fair game, so we had a lot of freedom to choose our material. And I learned my craft right up there on stage, 4 or 5 hours a night, 50 weeks a year, just pounding it out. 8 years ago, my family bought me a soprano uke for my birthday. Actually, this one here. And at first I just learned a few chords on it, and strummed around, but I kept thinking there must be more to it than this. And of course, one of the first things I noticed was the tuning with the high G there, the re-entrant tuning, and it was a bit like a 5-string banjo. So I wondered if I could transfer some of my banjo skills over to the uke. I'd never heard anyone doing this, but it turns out you can. So I started listening to other ukulele players on YouTube, like John King and Jake Shimabukuro, and they were playing all this great stuff, and it inspired me to investigate other genres, which I saw once I saw how much potential there was in this instrument. For instance, I'd always loved the music of Bach, and though it's very challenging, I was determined to try and play some. And this is probably around the time I switched to low G for the most part, because I wanted to extend the range. Here's a little bit of his Prelude in D. And pretty soon I was playing a variety of music I never thought I'd ever be playing on the ukulele, but this little instrument, it seems to be able to handle anything you throw at it. I love playing jazz, and once again, never thought I'd be playing jazz on the ukulele, but here's a little bit of the Thelonious Monk composition, Straight No Chaser. Now, obviously, I've had to skip over a few things because of time constraints, but I've added some links to the post title. It's sort of below the title of the post here. And, if you can't get enough of this stuff, that will fill in some more of the details, talking about the thumb pick and so on. So I'd like to end with talking about composition. One of the most gratifying things I find is to play material that you've written yourself, because after all, it brings what's inside you out into the world, whether that's inspired by sorrow or joy, but it deserves to be expressed. So I'd like to close here with a recent composition that I call August Nocturne. And a nocturne is literally night music, and I like playing music at night. Chopin wrote many nocturnes, as did Eric Satie, though I'm obviously not in the same league as them. I've enjoyed sharing my story, and I'll let the music speak for me. Bye now.